Okay, we are here on Cruise to the Edge in Costa Maya on the coast of Mexico for a rare live interview. We don't normally do these, but we have an amazing music industry executive, manager, promoter, entrepreneur, Andy Farrow here.
Hello.
Hi Andy, how are you?
I'm not feeling brilliant today, but last night was kind of a late one, and probably the first time on this cruise where I actually had maybe too many drinks.
Yeah.
Which is, not unusual.
Seeing a lot of bands 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 you wanted to see.
To be honest, on this cruise, I've been on other cruises like Prog Nation, 70,000 Tons of Metal. A lot of the bands on this, apart from the older ones, obviously I know Yes, Marillion, Steve Hackett, etc. I saw a bit of Adrian Belew Power Trio last night, which I saw previously on Prog Nation, but there's not like loads of brand new bands. Obviously we've just been talking about Thank You Scientist, and then obviously I went to see Knife World, which is a band that we actually book, who I'd never seen before, because the way it works in the office, there's another agent is booking them, so so it's not been a situation where it's like finding loads and loads of new bands, because I think the audience on this is obviously a lot of Yes fans, and it's slightly different to other kind of cruise gigs I've been on before.
Yeah, and in particular you're here for one particular band.
Yeah, well, it should have been two. Obviously Sons of Apollo, it's played their first ever gig on the boat, and the other band who was supposed to be on the boat was Anathema, that I manage and book, who are not here for personal reasons.
Right. So talk about Sons of Apollo. What's your relationship with the band, and what'd you think of the first show, as you know?
The first show, obviously Jeff, the singer, had bad news. His brother had passed away just as the boat was departing. So, the fact he even completed the gig was amazing. With that aside, and there was a few little glitches, maybe the vocals a bit low in the mix. I thought the band did really well. Obviously the audience it's kind of an old audience in there, and on this cruise they are probably one of the heavier bands, but for me, there was a few songs missing out of the set, and maybe ending at the Dream Theater track was a bit strange for me, but we'll see what they do on the second.
Right. They said they might mix it up on the second show. So each band on the cruise does two sets.
Yeah.
Typically. What's your involvement with the band? Are you managing them right now, or going to be a manager?
Well, I am managing the band. Essentially, how it was that Mike Portnoy and Derek were kind of the original kind of guys that signed the record deal and then brought the other guys in. So when I first met you, you were going, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing a Q&A. What should I?" I'm like, "Well, I only met the rest of the band in a fire drill," so it's kind of. We're still sorting out the contract and stuff, but right now, obviously, I'm working with the label on setting up the next single, which will be a live, which, hopefully we get some radio traction. Also, dealing with the touring plans. So outside of America, I'm actually booking the band worldwide. So we've got festivals, filler dates, European tour that will start in mid-September, go to the end of October, and we'll be looking at playing in Japan, and we've got gigs in South America coming up in April. So it's just about getting the whole kind of touring machine together, because the band's already sold quite a few albums, but these days it's all about getting out on the road.
Yeah. And so you got a bunch of members in this band that in their history have had lots of different projects over time, Portnoy being one of those that's known for that. But with this one, they've come out and said that this is going to be their priority. Is that important for you, being their manager as a band, that whatever they're working on at that time is the priority for it to work?
Yeah, because the biggest problem is, especially, Mike Portnoy's had loads of projects, and sometimes even from a press perspective, it's like, oh, it's another project. So, I think also to get the coverage, it needs to be seen as a full-time band. And I was told, the whole year would be clear, but I think it's very important that it gets across to people that it is a band and not a project, and that has got to be from doing a lot of touring and then obviously working on to the next record, which we will probably look to get out around autumn next year.
Oh, cool. They've talked about ideas for...
No, the band are not aware of this yet.
Perfect. So you mentioned festivals. I know that's a big part of what you do. In particular, the Prog, my friend festival in Spain. That has an incredible lineup. So what's going on with that? Who's playing? Talk about that one.
Well, this year we managed to land a Perfect Circle as a headliner, and then the other headliner is Steve Hackett. So what we do with this festival is we try and get one kind of band for the older audience and one for the younger audience, and to mix it up. And obviously, it's called Be Prog, my friend, and the word prog, and some of the bands might be deemed as alternative, but it's music that's progressive. So what we've tried to do is get some of the older bands but have the hottest new bands coming up. So last year we won the Prog Award for Best Event, and Leprous had the slot after Jethro Tull. It's the late night slot because in Spain gigs go on late, and they went down amazing. They actually sold more merch than any other band. So it's always good to have new bands coming through. So this year we've got an act called Pliny, who's a guitarist. It's all DIY out of Australia, but again, people are excited. The other thing we try and do is get a band to do a special set, play an album. So this year was going to be Katatonia, one of my bands. Annoyingly, are not playing it anymore, but so Burst, who are a band from Norway, who once beat Opeth on to win an award, which was, a P3 Guild Award. So this band Burst from Norway have reformed. I personally was like, well, I don't know how many people will be excited, but they are, so we try and have something special. So last year, Devin Townsend did Ocean Machine, and we tried to keep that formula. So we have a headliner for the older fans, one for the younger fans, and then mixing up new bands coming through, because you and me talked about the growth of the prog genre, and it can't be reliant on just old dinosaurs.
Yeah, right. Sons of Apollo playing the festival too, correct?
Sons of Apollo are playing, the festival. So generally, because I manage and book quite a lot of acts, so I always have at least one or two bands on.
Yeah. What other key festivals are the ones that you look at as a manager or somebody pushing a band, or even maybe you're looking to sign a band? Is there something, a performance at a festival or a festival in particular, that is a key thing for you to say, this is going to work, this band needs this?
Well, every country has key festivals. So for example, in Germany, one of the biggest festivals is Wacken. Now when Wacken started in England, we're all a bit snobby and we go, oh, look at that, all those old power metal bands, and now it just sells out on the name. So Wacken's a very big one. Hellfest is another festival, 80,000 in France. To get on that is very important. In the UK, there's a lot of politics between promoters. So Live Nation have Download, Kilimanjaro, used to have Sonosphere, and then they couldn't get a headliner. So now they've got Stone Free, which is an indoor festival where they've got the other version of Yes and Scorpions and bands like that on. So it's not necessarily about a key festival when I'm looking at new bands, because if I've got a band and I've signed them, and for their profile is to get them on festivals, but the reality might be different. They might be on at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's about how you hype it on the internet. They're on the posters, and so it looks bigger than it probably is.
Yeah.
But for me, with bands, I personally would prefer to see them in a small club, just from a point of view of can this band play live, can I grow this band, rather than at a festival. If
a band wants you to work with them, or you're thinking you've heard of a band, maybe getting some buzz, you want to check them out, what do you look for? Is it how many fans they have on Facebook? Is it their merch? What is it, their YouTube streams? What do you look for to say this is worth my time?
Okay.
I can do something?
Well, the first thing, when a band wants to do a support, it is old-fashioned, but we tend to look at Facebook, and the Facebook figures don't mean everything now. Recently, I've been working with a new band called Naked Six, put 4 singles out, and the streams are just growing. But the Facebook is not growing, but the streams, because some acts Devin Townsend, for example, is not huge on Facebook, but he's massive on Twitter. So I don't just look at Facebook. My thing would be listen to the music. And if you're sending music, it should only be 3 tracks. Generally, if you send a YouTube clip with your best track, so the person at the other end can see what they look like. Because I have had bands, the music's been brilliant, and then I've looked at them, and I've unfortunately, in some genres, to get coverage, bands need to look right, or they need to have an image or an angle. So, for me, it's about that, and also seeing that they're not copycats. If some band sends me their music and they sound like Opeth, I'm like, well, why do I need another? You want leaders, not followers. Now, the other thing in the music industry, if a band is too original, especially in America, they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's like
that's
if
true.
It doesn't fit in the box, then they don't know where to put it musically and things like that. But I think it's about being groundbreaking.
Talk about your company, Northern Music, and what you guys do as a whole. I know it's not just management, it's a lot of stuff.
So there's Northern Music Group, which is the holding company. So Northern Music Co. is the management company, and we manage 10 bands, and Travis Smith, the artist, and some involvement with producers. So, the bands we manage, obviously like Opeth, Paradise Lost, Devin Townsend, Anathema, Katatonia, Bloodbath, Fire, 65 Days of Static, and some others that I'm developing. And so that's the management company. And when you're a manager, you become a jack of all trades. So you kind of think, oh, right, we can do that. So, for example, Opeth are a massive merchandise band, and we saw the merchandise company was making a lot of money. So we're like, let's set up our own company, artist-owned, which I own with the band. So we set up O-Merch, so that's a kind of affiliate company. Then I have AMF Music, which is a publishing company that's administered by Cobalt. And Cobalt are a very forward-thinking, technological publishing company, probably the second biggest independent company in the world. Right. So what I do there is sign bands for publishing and work with their managers, or if they don't have a manager, to help do marketing, get them a record deal, an agent on gigs and things like that. Then I have a small record label called Graphite. I release about 5-6 releases a year on that. A booking agency called NMC Live that has about 35 bands that we book. I personally do Anathema, Sons of Apollo. Hayden, who works for me, does bands like Merca, Souls to Fear, Leprous. So we're kind of like, it's metal rock, post-rock kind of booking agency. The merch company, the booking, the publishing, the record label, and then I've got shares in a PR company called I Like Press and a DVD company called Film 24. So the guy that did a lot of my DVDs, Opeth, Devin, etc., I kind of got involved in that company, and we've just recently done Steve Hackett, we've done Singer of Free, I'm very tired. Paul Rogers.
Paul Rogers.
Yeah. So there's a lot of areas. So when a band comes in, it's not a 360 company where it's like you have to go through this or you have to go through that. But it's like, if I sign a band and nobody wants to sign them for a record, I'll be like, sod it, I'll do it myself. So
not an easy answer, I guess, but how do you manage all these things at once?
Well,
and how do you find the time to do it all?
Well, I have 10 staff, so I have a team that, so in England there's 9-10 people. I have one guy in Holland, and I used to have somebody in New York. So I think it's about, what I do is I do the deals, I do the strategy, but then, people in the office, sometimes I don't know how my bands get to a gig. Somebody else is sorting it out, or making sure they do press, getting the whole package, delivering everything. So, it's with a staff and you have to delegate, but admittedly, there are times where, all the companies is about 100 bands. Every band does not know me. I don't know every band. So, for example, I saw Knife World the other day. I've never seen them before. Somebody in my office books them.
Right. What's the funnest part of your job?
The funniest.
The most enjoyable.
Yeah, funniest. Nothing. No, well, I think my biggest thing is I do like to travel, and I think it's amazing, like when a band's music it'll be popular somewhere strange, Indonesia, they like metal, even Pakistan, and, to have bands that can go and tour in a new market. Now, a lot of my bands are sick of doing that, but to me, and it's somewhere warm, or the fact you can even come on an event like this. So the fun thing is seeing an act do a good gig, create an album, give a fan an experience. Because it's much like any business. Imagine you set up a shop and that's your vision and nobody came to buy. It must be soul crushing.
Yeah, right.
So, not every band connects. And I've had bands, I'm like, this is brilliant, but it's not connecting with the audience. And sometimes you have to be realistic and say, I love you guys, but people out there are not getting it.
Yeah. So,
you can have hype on an act, but if you don't have traction, because at the end of the day, you can hype and push stuff, but the fan is going to decide.
Right. Okay. Well, cool. Thank you, Mr. Andy Farrow.
Thank you.
We'll talk again soon, like in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. For upcoming news and interviews, please check theprogreport.com, follow us on Facebook, @theprogreport on Twitter, or download the podcast on iTunes. Thanks.